Name is Allan Walters. I'm a young adult pastor in San Dimas, California. I do youth as well. I get to serve under the incredible leadership of Pastor Jeff Vines. Been plugged into the same house for like 10 years now, but been on staff for about a little over half that. I want to talk to you guys about social media today. And before I even get into the topic and the idea of social media, I'm going to be quick and I'm going to be concise, but let me just say this is that you cannot replace uh, oil with a social media strategy. Like you cannot replace prayer meetings with a social media strategy. You cannot replace getting with your team, seeking God's face with a social media strategy. Like this is like you've done your young adult ministry has been going, it's flowing, it's good, and then you're like, hey, like I just feel like we can do more. Then let's have the social media conversation. Social media isn't the first thing that we should go to if you're not praying and seeking God's face as a team, as a church already. So let me just get that out the way because sometimes I feel like when covering the topic of social media, it's like, okay, well, if I just have a good social media plan, then we can get people here. And that's not my heart. My heart is very much so. Actually, this is. I wish I was like wholly like Dallas, where they would have asked me to talk on character. I obviously don't have a good character, but I have a good social media strategy. So let me just explain some of these things. I'll go quick, and then we'll talk. But we realized that we had an incredible shift in our ministry when we actually just began to gather and pray. And it's crazy because this idea was actually birthed out of our young adults coming and praying together. So you notice prayer always comes first. Prayer will always precede revival. Vivi said, "Seek first the kingdom." Right? Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom." So once you've done all that, then let's have the social media conversation. Um, let's just say this, like our church, we take it serious. My background was photo, video design. When I first got hired on at the church, it was one part-time position for the entire church. It's like we have 5 campuses. We have youth, young adult ministry. Well, at the time we didn't have young adult ministry, but it was youth ministry and whatever. And this is how the church valued social media 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And now, as you can tell, like every church is like you gotta have a page for youth and young adults and every campus and your men's ministry and it's like we have like 15 church pages for just one church. But we realize as we take it serious. And why? Because this is, I mean, I really mean this, and I'm not taking Bible out of context, but this is just the way I saw it, like in the prayer meeting was that Moses, when he has the burning bush moment, he comes to the bush and it says he went to it, but it was attractive. And obviously, the angel of the Lord's in the bush, so it's going to be attractive, right? But this idea that it was attractive because he saw something. But here's what happens: is once he encounters the bush, once he encounters the God that's in the bush, he now had relationship with God, and then the rest is history. But the idea is this: is that we can properly portray the Spirit of God through this medium that we call a cell phone, where people are looking on Instagram and they can see the Spirit of God within the ministry. That they might come because it looks cool, but that they actually stay because they now have a relationship with Jesus. Oh, I came because the pictures look good and the community look good. And, for some of the guys out there, they came because the girls look good. But then they stay because they had a real, genuine encounter with Jesus. And that's our hope and that's our heart behind everything that we do through our social media platforms. Is like we're not just posting a post, we're posting that we may reflect the glory of God that is in the room for somebody who is on the outside looking in. And so that's the prophetic like mandate that we got from the Lord is like, yo, just press in on this thing. We have an incredible team of like gifted people. And here's where it comes down to is like we ask the question, where are your adults? 2 places: college campuses, social media. We cannot get into any college or life for the first like 3 years. So we're like, okay, well, let's just go to the second place, social media. So we went there, we did that, we hammered that. And the reason why is I'll end with these 2 thoughts. They're going to take like 2 minutes each, but this idea that church words. One, social media is evangelism. I think a lot of times we use social media as an opportunity to just like be a billboard of like, oh, hey, like this is the next event on Tuesday. And then it's like the next week comes around, you're like, hey, come back to the event on Tuesday. But like there's actually an incredible opportunity to evangelize to a lot of people. Like, what are you posting to inspire? What are you posting to encourage? What are you posting to the person who's looking on outside, looking in, where they can be like, whoa, this place looks different. Or there's something happening here where it's like, I feel like I want to be a part of this community. There is an opportunity to reach a lost generation. And if all they're doing is doom scrolling all day long, then we have the opportunity to reach them, to invite them, to bring them in. Our church asked this question when we thought about doing young adult ministry is how do we reach the next generation? And I'm like, what a silly question to ask because like this is the most reachable generation. The question is like, how do we love on them? How do we disciple them? How do we welcome them? How do we love them? And social media is a tactic in which we can do it because evangelism is just one tactic, but then we always use evangelism to develop discipleship. I'll give a couple stories and then I'll wrap it up. But this idea of We've had somebody DM our Instagram. Actually, I'm gonna give you a practical handle. This is the practical tip. I've given this to some friends. It works. Every time somebody follows you, DM them by name. We have this template that we send to people. So it'd be like, hey, Micah, thank you for following Young Adults. Here's what our ministry is about. So our mission statement. Here's where you can find us. Here's our next service time, day and time. Follow us on YouTube. Um, would love to pray for you if, let us know how we could be praying for you. And 7 to 10 times, people will respond to it and say, wow, thank you so much. What the heck? Like, you responded to this. People ask us, other ministry friends who follow the account, how did you set that up automatically? It's like, no, we have a person go in and DM every single person who follows us. Because when I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods, there was this, I mean, I don't know how true this is, but it worked for the ministry, and it's a good illustration, is that 80% of people who walked into Dick's Sporting Goods typically left with something. Like, you don't just walk into a sporting goods store. Like, if you need a basketball, you're leaving with a basketball, right? Like, so there's an 80% chance that somebody who walks into Dick's Sporting Goods is going to leave with that item. But they said that if you could put the product in their hand, that it goes from 80% to 95%. Like, if somebody needed like tape for their baseball bat, like 80% chance they're probably going to leave with it. But there's a 95% chance that if you could make them feel it, if they could like smell it, if they could like just, the concept of the fact that it's already in their hand, that the chances increased of them leaving with it. That's how I view social media, and that's how I view the church, is that if they followed the young adult account that you're in charge of, that you're stewarding, they probably already see something that they like. But if you can DM them by name and you can make them feel a part of this community, before they even stepped in the building, man, you might have increased their chances from 80% of coming next Tuesday to 95% of coming next Tuesday. So that's an illustration. That's hopefully that's helpful. But we've seen it as a strategy that works, because people come in, they're like, wow, I never felt so welcome, and I didn't even walk in the place yet. And what I mean by discipleship is we've seen moments that sets this up, is we've seen moments where we DM somebody 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. We have service at 7. They respond at 4 o'clock. And then at the end of the night, they posted a picture of them getting baptized. And I'm like, wait, what the heck? And it was like, so because they followed the account, we increased the chances by DMing them. They said, you know what, I'm going to pull up. They ended up showing up. They gave their life to Jesus. They got baptized. And now it's one of my favorite small group leaders leading youth ministry, almost a year later, because, and so was it social media, or was it just Lord? Yes, both. Like, I think God was going to reach her anyways, I'm sure. But also, like, why not use a social media strategy to help, develop them? So the point is discipleship on both ends. We have the opportunity to disciple through our Instagram platforms. Like, don't just post, hey, here's the next thing happening next week, but like, maybe get somebody on your team to just post an encouragement, a prayer, a small devotional, 2 minutes, like something like that. Like, how can we encourage and disciple the people who are already following, but how do we evangelize to the people who aren't following us yet? And lastly, like, this is my favorite part about the whole thing. Like, yes, people are getting saved, and actually that should probably be my favorite part. But what I love is that there's an entire group of 18, 19-year-olds, 16-year-olds actually, who they're so creative. And I live this life of like doing life with the next gen. Like, I go to concerts with 16-year-olds, and like I invite 19-year-olds to go do everything with me. And there's a group of students who they're so creative, and I've given them the reins to do everything. Like, what a discipleship opportunity, that now they have a holy burden, a conviction to stay plugged into the house. Like, the students will not show up if they don't have a reason to. But if you put the camera in a 19-year-old's hand and you've developed and given them ownership over something, like, this is my like ministry, like this is what's going to keep them plugged into the house. They're going to stay away from everything that we're trying to prevent them from. So I think, what a discipleship opportunity. Because I know us as leaders, I gotta preach, and then I gotta go do this, and I have the meetings, I gotta meet with my pastor, and I gotta meet with these young adults. Why don't you let a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 20, I mean, it could be a 40-year-old, who cares, if that's what you're feeling, if they're good at social media, but just give them an opportunity to run the platform, and give them opportunity to fail, give them opportunity to disciple people through online, because there's going to get DMs that come, hey, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? And they'll be well equipped, because you've equipped them to walk them through anything that they need to be walked through pastorally. But yeah, let's reach the next generation using social media. That's my quick little 10-minute spiel. I wish I could talk more, but just reach out to me. We'll talk more. This is a conversation I have often, and I love talking about. So appreciate you, Micah and Josiah. And if y'all want to get phone call, we can't really get coffee through Zoom, but we can share a coffee through Zoom. That'd be awesome. But appreciate you guys. Love you all. Appreciate it.
Allan, thank you so much for sharing. He's one of our favorite people to turn to with social media, and just how the success rate has increased. And it's not about people coming through our doors, it's about people coming to Christ
Yes.
and feeling connected.